What is up, everybody? We are back, and hopefully, a lot better than before. For a time's a charm, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course. This had to happen. It was meant to be.
Yeah. All right. So, unlike any other stream before, we're starting right in the middle of an arbitration, which is the best mission ever. I'm really glad I'd survived so long. I could have been dead. I was like half not paying attention. But we should be back with a lot less lag this time, guys. Let me say again, welcome so much. Thank you so much for tuning in today to our amazing Warframe WFC Spotlight with Gooperatives, or Goop. I'll just say Goop from now on. We just went into how he started out on YouTube, and from then went on to Twitch. A story I can like really relate to, which is like it's insane. But right now we've gotten to like how did it feel to get started on Twitch? And for if people missed that, like what were the first streams like, and how did it differ from YouTube?
Streaming, like once we actually got like a community going on streaming, it was way different because YouTube, you always get like, you know, when you have like post-production content or pre-recorded, it's always different because people will pop in and they'll go, oh, great video, man, or you did this wrong, or you know what I mean, like the critiquing is it's usually like critiquing or something of that nature. It's not really a conversation, right? But like on Twitch, you know, what you and I have always talked about is that it is absolutely like better to be on Twitch because you can actually just talk and get to know people as people and be like, hey, how was your day? Oh, you went to the doctor? Man, how did that go? Like you just kind of get to know people and it feels more organic. Like it's almost like you're just playing a game and hanging out with your friends. Whereas YouTube, you feel like you put out a video and you religiously check like the view count, like you know, how many people looked at it, and you try not to like look at the toxic comments. Like YouTube is sort of almost kind of a negative experience when like checking what you've already uploaded in a lot of ways. So Twitch is, even if like two people show up, you're still hanging out with like your friends and chatting and stuff. And yeah, it just feels better. It just feels way better to do live content, in my opinion. Doesn't mean there's not value in YouTube, of course, but yeah, it's definitely a much more positive experience, I feel.
It's such a more people experience. It's like getting, as you said, getting two people to watch the stream feels so much more than like getting 20 people to watch a video, because like you really know these people. And
yep, exactly.
It's really nice. So you said you started out kind of like with the intention of going into Overwatch, but then Plains of Eidolon came around. And
that's the truth, yeah.
And that kind of got you hooked into Warframe. Well, like, how did you discover Warframe, and from, well, where did that take you? Like, getting inside this rather, well, it's a very nice community, but it's full of people that know a lot about the game, and how do you develop yourself within a community where you're new?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, I tried Warframe at one point. I want to say like in 2016 or something of that nature. And I tried it on PlayStation because I didn't have a ton of money, and I was like, oh, what's a free game? What free games have they got on here? Just curiosity. There's always like a hidden gem. So I downloaded Warframe. I was like, this game looks like, based on the art and the style, I was like, this game looks right up my alley. Like, you know, sort of like, it, you know, on the outside it looks like very like mech suits and very anime-ish almost. And I was like, okay, all right, like I'll bite. And I tried it, and I got all the way to Venus, I believe, maybe Mercury. And I was like, okay, this is really cool. Like, it feels cool to play, but I don't really get, like, you know, beyond Vor's Prize, the game, like after Vor's Prize, which is a pretty good quest, actually. You go through Vor's Prize, and then it's like, cool, like, there you go, that's the game. And you're just kind of supposed to figure it out. So I was like, I don't really know why I'm running these missions or why I should care. So I just kind of stopped playing the game. You know, and I was streaming it for a little bit. So I was like, I didn't have a huge community though. So I was like, I'll just play something else. I had at that point, like, I knew Greats personally. I had met Greats a few times because we lived fairly close to each other, and I've been watching Daniel the Demon, and yep, yeah, me and
that
Greats
is so cool.
Yeah, I you know, and I didn't even know it at the time because I had met him and I didn't really know what he was into or whatever. So it was very cool to like know these broadcasters because I'd watched Daniel the Demon for a long time. And I saw him tweet about his TennoCon 2017 reaction to Planes of Eidolon when he's talking about like being on the planes and like getting on your arc wing and like he's like freaking out. And I was like, okay, this looks like really cool. Like, I kind of want to give this game a shot again. Like, I was kind of one of those where Planes of Eidolon got me back in. And so I, at this point, had established a community that was like, yes, you should play Warframe and we will play it with you. And I was like, okay. So I hopped in and literally like 2.5 months later had become a partner. And you ask about like knowledge, and I'll say like, honestly, when it came down to it, like knowledge and establishing myself, I played the game religiously for like 2 months basically. And they like accepted me pretty quick. I think I applied twice. But at the time I was literally like MR 7 or 8, and I went to TwitchCon after the Planes of Eidolon drop. I remember going to Planes of Eidolon, like they had a booth where you can log in like and play the game right there at TwitchCon. And I literally remember having, I think I had XCal and I think I had Rhino and I had Necros Prime. Those were the only 3 frames I really had. Because I didn't really understand how to get frames or like to do assassination missions or anything like that. But I'd really maxed out those frames and I loved them. So yeah, a lot of people, I remember getting a lot of hate because I was a partner and people would pop in and be like, how are you a partner? And I was like, that's a good question. I hear you, but I think it's because they don't really care. You know, they have so many partners now that already like know the game inside and out that I think they want somebody who's passionate about the game and about learning the game more so than somebody who's already a vet and already like, you know, killing it. So that's, I think I kind of got lucky based on like what they were doing. But I mean, once they partnered me, I was sold and I played the game basically nonstop for better part of 6 months on Twitch, and just tried to do the best I could, be like an authority and to know the game without being like the typical quote unquote, you know, you hear the veteran word thrown around a lot. I didn't want to necessarily like be a veteran. I just wanted to learn and to like experience and to get perspective. And I think that's how I came to establish myself a little bit, is just kind of the new way that I thought about it, if you will.
That is so cool. Voicing the words of tribal, I have to say, I agree. It is so freaking cool. I mean, I'm kind of waiting for that. It's every day in 2.5 months partner never done before song to come out from you, because that is like, I've never heard someone get partner so quickly.
Yeah,
and
it
it's
was
insane.
It's very weird.
It is crazy.
It was one of those things where like I applied for partner and like forgot about it because I was like, I'll apply just to like throw my name in the hat. I got the partner acceptance email and it went to my junk folder for some reason. Yeah, so I didn't even know I was partner for the better part of like a week or so, and then I checked my email because I was like, oh, that right, I didn't hear anything back from that. Well, I wonder what happened. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, like they accepted me. Like I felt really weird about it, but yeah, it was very interesting. And so yeah, I was blown away, and it was like my first official like quote unquote partnership with a company. So it felt like I wanted to take it really seriously. You know, when you choose to like represent a game, that is a big deal. You know, they're putting a lot of faith in you to put a good face to the game and stuff like that. So I definitely just wanted to do my best in that regard. So.
Better make all their NDA mails go to the junk.
Yeah, exactly, right? Just NDA what now? Yeah.
DA, what do you say, DE? I don't know. It just went to my trash.
Yeah, just let's talk about things I can't talk about.
Oh yeah, let's talk about all those things that we may or may not talk about. We can talk about maybes. Maybe we've heard that. We cannot say, but
The good thing I'm glad that they guard a lot of it, because like, we don't know stuff the way people think we know stuff. You know, you always get people that come in chat and they're like, you're a partner, so like when's Fortuna coming out? And I'm like, you think they would tell one of us when Fortuna's coming out? No, that would be leaked information in seconds.
I wish we knew. Okay,
yeah,
so
I mean, you're not wrong.
so it's like, seriously, if you want to know what we know, take a look at Steve's or Rebecca's Twitter, and then that's the information that we'll know like half an hour after you see that posted on Twitter.
Yeah, I literally have turned on for both of them, because Steve loves to show stuff off, and then Rebecca's like, why did you tell people about this? Like, it's the funniest relationship back and forth. I love it.
Dude, Steve's Twitter is just fucking content, dude. I'm like, oh, I love it. I love it. I love
to see like how passionate Steve is as well. Like you can really see that in the way he talks about a lot of the stuff that they do. Yeah, it really makes me love the game even more.
Oh hell yeah, dude! I so agree. I so agree. But with that being said, I actually want to touch on like an important aspect of your channel, because like you said, I kind of set up myself not as the veteran type, but as the player that that learns along the way, and it's like, you know, not feeling that kind of standard mold that a lot of streamers go for. But at the same time, you're also one of the few people that really advocates mental health support, and especially in your Discord, I really like seeing like the venting and the winning parts in your Discord, and I think they're really good. Where does this come from, and how have you found like integrating that in your channel and in your Twitch? Like,
yeah, mental health was not always the focus of the stream. Actually, for a long time, it was kind of the anti-focus, where like we were a place of positivity, and you couldn't really like vent your stress out because it would bring down the vibe or whatever. So it was kind of an evolution of myself. I was a really toxic streamer for a bit, because I was stuck at the like 30s to 40 viewer range and stuff like that. You know, pretty typical stuff. People get stuck at view numbers and they get worried about viewer numbers, and that's kind of all they start to worry about. So I got really stuck in this very, very toxic mentality on stream. And I did the thing nobody should ever do, and I asked Twitter and my Discord for anonymous feedback. And I'll tell you, when people can be anonymous, they will tear you apart.
oh.
So people were saying things like, look, it kind of just seems like all you care about is view numbers and partnership and like money. There were a few people that are like, look, like I love your content, but like when you're stressed out, like it's not fun to be here. And then there were people that were like, look, man, like when you worry about who doesn't show up to your stream, it kind of feels like those of us who do show up every stream don't matter, and I don't want to be here. And that hit me really, really hard because, you know, when I was 16, I was diagnosed with a few mental health issues. I went to therapy. And I wouldn't say like, you know, you're never cured, it's never over. But after therapy, I just kind of stopped thinking about it. And I started realizing that like my anxieties regarding like streaming and the future and like what I wanted out of streaming were like sort of dictating how I streamed and like my community, my content, my brand. So I decided to take and be more positive and start actually like venting to my community, and instead of like bottling stuff up and being toxic and being like worried about numbers, just sort of talking about my experiences and letting that stuff out. And as I did that, like I found a lot of people that really resonated with what we were talking about and doing, that also like wanted to talk about their stuff. And it just sort of grew into what it is today, where, you know, me talking about my bipolar disorder or talking about my anxiety, a lot of people are like, I feel that too, how do you get through that? I'm like, well, this is what I do, and it helps most days. And then we share things back and forth, we encourage each other, and it's gotten to be now where we've taken it to a new level. We've partnered with a website called Heart Support, and they also have their own channel on Twitch, where that's all they do is talk IRL and talk about mental health and reach out to people in need. But they have a forum on their website where people go on and they post about what they're going through, and people will get on and respond to them, very similar to like how my Discord section works. But I've decided to take a forum post from somebody in need or somebody who's reaching out, and we will talk about it live on stream. Every stream we grab a new forum post and we talk about it, and we read their post out loud, and we call it the topic of the stream, or the tots, if you will. Yeah, and so we talk about it, and then what I do is I'll highlight us talking about their forum post, and I respond to their forum post with the highlight off of Twitch to offer them encouragement, let them know they're not alone in whatever they're struggling with. And yeah, we've started doing that, which it has helped our outreach a little bit, but also helped to like reinforce what our community is about and be sure that we're actively having those discussions on a daily basis. And in a way, it sort of humbles us a little bit as well. So, I think it's helped me to grow as a person. I've seen so many people in our community grow as people, and break really bad habits, and sort of just, it's almost like just watching, your little brothers grow up or your little sister grow up. And it's been a really wonderful experience to have on Twitch. And I think it's a really unique experience on Twitch as well.
It is, like, I have to say about, like, the topic of the stream, wow, first of all, that's like something I've never heard before, and like it sounds absolutely fantastic. Like, first of all, like even bringing up attention to like an individual problem that some people might have, but they might not even like know by themselves, or they don't want to come forward with it, and then being able to like also share the feedback that you get on stream to the person that actually put it out there. That's really, really nice.
Thank you.
But like. No, but like honestly, it's like I got no words for it. It's pretty it's pretty insane. Like seriously, like looking at what most people like, you can go and have fun on stream, or you can talk about stuff that may really make people better. And when you come to like the forced positivity, there is definitely a part of it on YouTube, on Twitch, on content creation, everything you see on the internet. A ton of it is partly forced positivity.
Yep.
So it must have been like really hard breaking through that.
Yeah.
Like, how was
you get
that
a
to
lot of
begin
people
with?
that aren't like receptive to it. Yeah, like you'll get people, and there are broadcasters that are like, hey man, like, don't, we're a positive place, and let's not bring it down. And I get why like those places are, for me, there are days where I literally don't want to stream. I don't feel good. I'm having a bad mental health day. But like bottling it up and not saying anything, and then just making like Twitter posts that seem like I'm super, super happy, that's not what I want to do either, So for me, it's very much about like, transparency. It's for me, it's way easier just to be real about what I'm going through than just to be like, hey guys, it's happy sunshine rainbows all the time. Like I can't live that way, and it just sort of works out that people respond to that really well on stream and stuff too.
But so how was that to begin with? Because was there like an immediate positive response to it? Because like I can imagine, like I'm having bad days too, and I'm not the one to like post on Twitter that everything is fine, but I'm also not the one to post that like everything is going bad. It's like when you first post that, isn't that like right now you've grown like a very great community around it. I've seen a lot of people, especially when it comes to like the Fenton section, that seem to know really, really well how to handle different situations, give advice. But when you first start from like having this kind of forced positivity that you kind of upheld for a while, then going over to like being straight honest, even if it's bad, how hard was that? It's
not easy. I've been called a lot of things. The thing that I always say, we're not in it, we're not a substitute for therapy or anything. So I don't want anyone to ever think that we should, that you should not get proper mental health care because we're talking about it on stream. So, but we've been, I've been told a lot of things. There are people that did react negatively to it. We talk about suicide and things like that sometimes, and some people, I've literally had people in chat be like, hey, can we like not talk about this? And I'm like, no, like let's talk about it. Like, unfortunately, I understand for some people that it's a sore point or that there is a level of uncomfortability, but that's kind of the stigma that we want to try to break down a little bit, the idea that you can't talk about it. Aside from that, like, Yeah, we did get initial negative reactions and stuff like that, and you know, it's not the channel. Even inherently isn't for everybody, because talking about mental health is sometimes a lot of people do see it as like a downer, and they want like a Twitch channel that they can sort of meme in and be like super goofy in and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, we're not all serious all the time. Like, we definitely joke around, but like, we also don't make jokes at other people's expense or like, you know, anything crazy like that. So you know, is like a code of conduct. It definitely, there were growing pains to weed out people who weren't down with like what we were trying to turn our community into. It wasn't easy, but yeah, I mean, there have been people that to this day are like, you know, they kind of, they have the attitude of like, well, who are you to like tell people, you know, what, you know, or give people advice or anything like that. And I'm like, well, I mean, sometimes it's not about giving advice or how good I am at it, but with our community, sometimes it's just knowing that like you're not alone in like what you're going through, and I think that's the really, really important part of it. So
That was also a question that I had for you regarding well, like, you're talking about these topics, and you're also having people come forward with you with like mental health questions, and as you said, like, a stream can never substitute therapy overall when it comes to like mental health, especially mental health issues. It's like, I've studied a bit of psychology. I don't know a lot about it. Like, I will not say I'm an expert, but like, how little we know what's going on inside here. It's like, it's something that if you feel like you're affected by it, like, definitely reach out. Like, totally, like, it's not gonna hurt. It's not gonna hurt. Like, what do you have to lose? It's like one time going to therapy, maybe 2 times, maybe 3 times. Like, what you gotta lose? It's like a couple of hours could make a world of difference. However, I've had a couple of people come up to me with like their difficulties, and one thing that I always like struggled with a little bit is that like what works for me doesn't necessarily work for them, and it's like, how do you respond in a rightful way? Like, sometimes there are things that I just plainly don't know, and I don't know how applicable that will be and how well that will work out. How do you feel like, how do you deal with that responsibility, like when you're talking with someone about like a very important topic to them, and you know they're kind of asking for your advice? How do you go about that?
It's always difficult. I think that anytime you give advice, it's always with like the preface that like you're just giving advice based on like what worked for you. Obviously, like saying that it does a lot for people. I think I have a really good way of putting myself in other people's shoes, and like trying to see what works for them. But everybody's situation is like different. So, you know, at the end of the day, like early on, I struggled with it because I was like, you know, what if I misstep, or what if I give like the wrong sort of like perspective or advice? But like it's kind of like with anything, like we can only do the best we can do, and if it works, awesome. If it doesn't, you know, what else can you do? You've done the best you can. So yeah, I definitely get that of like, you know, well, you might not be able to give advice. And honestly, like I said, we are a community mostly about like venting, right? Like come to us and like just get stuff off your chest. Because like when I was 16 and I wasn't allowed to, you know, really do much about my mental health, you know, I went to my parents and I was like, hey, I think I would like a diagnosis. You know, I think I would like to go get help. And they were like, oh, you're a teenager. You don't really need to go worry about getting help. And I was like, okay, you know, and my friends weren't talking about mental health, you know, like it just wasn't something you did back then. So I didn't even have anywhere to go to vent. And I think that at some point, like if I had somewhere to vent, I wouldn't have gone like as far as I did, in the direction I did. So I think the thing that we always have to remind ourselves is that our community is primarily just about venting, and that like we don't have all the answers, and that is what therapy is for. You know, you can vent to us and we'll hear you and we'll probably understand. But at the end of the day, you have to be sure that like you're kind of putting yourself in a position to, you know, be heard by like an actual professional. And so, yeah, if there's ever a moment where like we don't have the answers, I mean, I don't expect us to have the answers, because it's just, we're here to encourage and to you know, just be an ear more than anything. And I think that's the takeaway, you know.
Honestly, it has me at a loss for words, because it's like just giving people a place to talk um, having like things. So like it hits home. Okay, it hits home. I've never known how to talk about it on stream, so I think it's important that we touch on it, especially right now, because like I think it's a big aspect about what you do. It's not something that I frequently talk about, so I find right now, in all honestly, staying honest, that like it's hard to keep up.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, and like originally, like I said, yeah, there was a lot of stress of like, how do we do this the right way? And there's not a right way. I think that's the important part is like there is no right way to do it. All you can do is, be there for the community and have, like you would be there for your best friend or something like that. Like that's the idea. Like I want the community to be something that I wish I had when I was way younger. And I think that helped us to like lay down a really good framework for that stuff.
So, is there anything in your past that you want to go into to elaborate on that, or shall we move on to the
I mean, yeah. I mean, I can. I'm really an open book when it comes to like my past and stuff. So for me, I didn't really like have parents like traditionally. Like both of my parents were there, but my dad always worked day shift and mom worked night shift. So I only saw like one parent at a time. I never really saw them together or anything like that. And then as I got older, my dad actually hurt his back. He became disabled through a work accident. So there was a point where I couldn't really like I didn't have parents because mom would be at work and then dad would be like he'd take his pain meds and kind of go to sleep in his chair or whatever. So for a really long time, I just didn't really have like traditional parents or anything like that. And that kind of made me sort of grow up. I ended up, raising my little brother for the better part as best as I could, while also being like 15 and 16 and going to school. And then when I turned 16, I got a job like the day I turned 16. So, there was a lot of stuff. I grew up very, very fast. And so in terms of like, I felt very kind of alone. I had a lot of swings, and mood swings alone, aren't necessarily a cause for like mental health concern, but they were very drastic, from like very, very angry to like, there would be times where I'm like incredibly motivated to times where I don't want to do anything. I don't want to get out of bed. Like I don't want to even go to school, stuff like that. And I was like, I just don't feel right. Like this doesn't feel like how a teenager should feel. And so at that point, I thought like, hey, what would be the harm in seeing if I can get some mental help or something? Yeah, and then like I said, my parents were like, you're 16. It's just hormones. You don't need anything like that because you'll grow out of it. Was kind of the response I got, and I was like, well, okay, I guess. So yeah, I tried to cope for a few more months, and then at the end of that, I ended up taking some of my father's pain pills, and I tried to commit suicide just by kind of overdosing on pills that were meant for a much larger man, and they were very strong. So, but I took them. I purged my system like 15-20 seconds later. Like immediately regretted it. Was terrified of like dying. So I didn't actually go through with it, and after that incident, a little while later, I was officially, my parents were like, okay, let's see what's going on. Let's take you to therapy and do all this stuff. So it just kind of like, it finally drove it home, I guess. Yeah, so that was the long and short of it. Went to therapy for a little bit while I was still in high school, and learned a little bit, like learned how to cope, learned a little bit about myself, learned how to like, deal with some of that stuff. But that was kind of it. After I moved out of my parents, like that, I kind of didn't worry about my mental health for a few more years. It was a little while before I went back and even thought about my mental health in a serious way. So, kind of came around again like 10 years, almost 10 years later when I started streaming, and was like, I'm kind of out of control again. I really need to rein myself in, and I told that story already. So
I have to say, like honestly, that is tough, man. Like seriously.
It's actually something that in having the community that a lot of people actually identify with. A lot of people can't tell their parents that they feel like they're struggling. A lot of people can't tell their parents, or their parents will straight up say like, oh no, you're fine. You don't have anything wrong with you. A lot of people have echoed that same sentiment about being or feeling powerless. A few people in the community have actually talked about how they've like maybe gone to their school counselor, and their school counselor like called the cops, and like they had a real sit down conversation because that person was seen as a threat to themselves instead of like getting help for them or like being told something in confidence. It's kind of something, especially here in the United States, mental health just isn't understood, and nobody really knows how to handle the conversation appropriately. Even authority figures like teachers and counselors and stuff. So and again, our community doesn't fix that problem, but at least we try to provide a place where you can just get stuff off your chest and not feel like you're completely alone. That's kind of the idea. So
I really, really like that thought, because honestly, like the idea that what kind of job did you take on your like 16th birthday? That's insane. Having to start work at that age on your birthday even. Seriously. What did you do? What was it? Can you still remember?
Yeah, it was a call center job. It was literally, we would call companies to like get to ask like customer satisfaction surveys. It was literally just sitting in a cubicle making or accepting phone calls all day or cold calling people all day.
Wow.
I had that job for like 3 years. I remember like we never had spending money. Money was always tight after like dad got hurt and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, I want spending money. I went out, got my job, and then at that point I started paying rent as well. Like as a 16-year-old, I was paying my parents rent, or not paying their rent, but I was paying my parents like $100 a month to like quote unquote help out for a while. Just grew up way quicker than I wanted to.
Wow.
But I think it taught me responsibility, and like in one way it was good, in another way it was not good. I just didn't know how harmful it was going to be to me until far later in my life.
So as you said, it kind of like it kind of returned with streaming into your life, especially now that you're having it as like an active topic within your community, your streams, in your Discord. But how did you experience going into like YouTube and streaming in particular, which as social as it may seem, as far as I've seen and experienced, it's like a really lonely job. If you take it.
that's the hard part. That's kind of one of those things where it was, when I started YouTube, it wasn't bad because I had like my best friend at the time, like we were doing it together. So every Monday, because we both worked at a Best Buy together, and so like every Monday was our day off. We both planned for Mondays to be off. So we would get up at like 8 a.m., like 7 a.m., whatever. We'd go to his house, we'd set up, we would record content for like 6 to 7 hours. Just a buttload, like, okay, let's play this game for 3 hours, and then let's play this game for 3 hours. And then we'd go home and we would both edit our respective videos for the channel. And once we did that, we would upload it and stuff like that. So for a while it was fine because we weren't necessarily like alone. Like we were chilling with each other, and it was a lot of fun doing it with your friend. When he decided to go back to school, that's where like my heart kind of broke, and I was like, I don't know if I can keep doing content creation because I don't know how to do it by myself. Like I don't know how to make gaming videos that don't have like me talking to someone else. It was rough, and it is a lonely job because at the end, unless you are constantly co-streaming or getting a boost from other people, like it is like just you kind of versus the world of Twitch. So I struggled for a bit. I got lucky actually early on to I played Dark Souls because I never played it, and everyone said it was hard. It's like, oh sure, fun. And the Dark Souls community kind of really enjoyed me for the most part. So early on, we got like 7 or 8 viewers every stream or something like that, and that was enough to make it feel like it wasn't super alone. And at the time, I was living with my girlfriend / fiance at the time, and so it didn't, it wasn't like when the stream ended, I was completely alone by myself. You know what I mean? It was always like I kind of always had somebody there to like talk to. And I was still working at Best Buy with my friend and stuff like that. So it wasn't that bad in terms of like what I was trying to do. I never felt too alone. Once I moved though, I did move for a while, and I left, where I was living, and was still living with my fiance, but I wasn't like with my friends at that job, and that's when the Twitch loneliness started kind of kicking in, because it was hanging out with your friends on Twitch is great, but like I need to like hang out with my friends like physically. Like I need to hang out with people, you know, go grab a beer or you know, go for a walk together and stuff like that. And that's when, for probably I think about a year and a half, almost 2 years, that was the hardest part, was just being alone. And the community made that better, but it was very hard, because I literally for 2 years did not go out to like any events. I rarely went to dinners. We'd go see a movie occasionally or something, and that was kind of it. It wasn't much else. I didn't really make any friends when we moved, because I just worked and streamed. And then when I went full-time with streaming, I literally didn't leave the house. So yeah, that's when the loneliness really sat in terms of like somebody who, you know, because like when you're engaged or you have your girlfriend or whatever, like they don't necessarily get streaming unless they are a streamer. So it's kind of hard to like have those conversations and whatnot. And so yeah, it definitely was rough. And I'm lucky enough now, you know, my life has changed a bit. I'm lucky enough now to have people in my life that stream, that I can go to physically, like, and be like, hey, let's like hang out and like, you know, have a beer and talk. And my current girlfriend, she streams, so it's gotten a little bit easier.
That's something that I kind of wanted to ask you about as well, because like I know from my experience, also doing this like full time, this being the only thing I do, it's like there are so little people around you that play games, let alone play Warframe, and then let alone play and stream at the same time. So there's so little people that you can talk to that understand what's happening, and then most of the people that understand what's happening work so hard that I often feel like you can only talk so much with them, because like I have work, they have work. And then when you hit them up, it's like, yo, hey, I got this problem. It's like, it's not really the best startup line for the day, right? So, like, have you ever had anything like that before? Like, how do you deal with that? Like, talking to streamers about like shitty topics. About
shitty streaming things. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult and it's selective, right? Like, not everybody wants to talk about like the streamer problems, you know, with anybody. I guess because of the way I conduct my stream, and because of like the open conversations we have in stream, I kind of, it's easy for people to know like who I am, like how transparent I am. And it also makes it easy for me to know like who I can trust and go to about stuff. So, it's a little easier on my side. And I always tell people, like, look, if you're going through some stuff, like, you know, if we're close, like, hit me up in Discord DMs or whatever. I may not see it immediately, and I'm really bad about stuff, but like, you know, we can always talk about it. I think that has, in terms of me being able to, in terms of me keeping that line of communication open, I think that has been reciprocated, and people are willing to like open up a line of communication for me as well. So there are times where it definitely is hard, because it's never easy to go like, hey, I need somebody, like I need to chat about something, I need to get stuff off my chest. Like it's a little bit of our pride, but it's a little bit like we don't want to bother other people with our problems. So I definitely get that a lot, actually. I tend to bottle stuff up until it gets like dangerously toxic. And that's when I like, okay, I gotta talk to somebody or get this off my chest. But it's getting easier. It's, you know, the more I do it, the more I know that people come to me the way that I come to them. And it's gotten easier.
That's really nice to have around you, because it's like, it's hard to hit people up, especially when like most of your connections go for Discord, go through voice chat.
Yeah.
And then even when you get to them, like talking about things that like, there are always going to be like difficulties in life, but most of the time you have people around you to understand. But as Travis just said, I've never thought of YouTube versus Twitch in difficulty before. There are definitely some really cool parts about this, but there are also some less cool parts about this.
About like streaming?
Yeah. How was going full time for you?
Full time was scary. It was forced. You know, I was looking at, you know, how Well, we're getting closer to being able to go full time, but at one point, the job I had was really toxic. I did not enjoy my coworkers, and they were not. They didn't interact with me in an appropriate way. They were not kind people. So I did not enjoy that job that I worked at. I worked there for the better part of like 2 years. So at one point, I kind of got a little tired of it. And I was like, I'm just gonna put in my 2 weeks and we're gonna try full-time out. So the day I put in my 2 weeks notice at my job, they were like, oh, you're gonna put in your 2 weeks, let's just go ahead and fire you. So yeah, they wrote me off of all the schedules and stuff, and that was stressful. I was like, oh God, like I don't have, another, because 2 weeks is like a paycheck, I was like, I don't have a paycheck to fall back on. We're just gonna kind of do this. So it was scary for a bit because I had been streaming nothing but Warframe, and I had just got Twitch partnered. So I was like, well, we can do this. We could try it out. So I went ahead and did it, and it's going well. Money's very tight. It's tighter than I'd like it to be sometimes because, with gifted subs, you'll have, 60 gift subs or 200 gift subs that fall off, and you're like, oh dear God.
Yeah.
So the money isn't consistent, so you can't really it's hard to budget, you know what I mean? Where you're like, oh, I have this much money and I can pay all these bills, and that's kind of scary. But at the end of the day, this as a job, I remember I go to the store, I'll go to Walmart or a grocery store or whatever to go get eggs, and I look at people that just got off their long 9-to-5 shift, and they look exhausted. They look like they hate what they do. And I'm like, I always count myself really fortunate to be this is my job, creating content and encouraging people and having the community that I have, that's my job. And it always reminds me how lucky I really am about that. Once Twitch goes full time, you have so many inherent worries and struggles that you have to deal with, you have to look at your numbers a bit more. You have to you can't play Warframe for 6 months and then get Twitch partnered or whatever and then start okay, well, I think I'm gonna play Fortnite 3 times a week. You have to be very careful, and you have to strategically play certain things at certain times until unless you have an astronomical number of viewers, if you have 300-400 viewers when you're playing Warframe, cool, 100 and something or 200 of them are still gonna come around when you play that variety game. But if you have 100, like a lot of us do in the Warframe directory, when you play a variety game, you get 30 viewers, 40 viewers. And so that starts to affect how much money you make, and that starts to affect your paycheck, your livelihood. So Twitch starts to become less for fun and more strategic in how you handle it and what you choose to do. And it gets scary, it gets tough, because you don't want people to think you're just this money hungry person on Twitch, but at the same time you're like, well, I do have to pay my electric bill. So and that's kind of where Patreon and YouTube have been a really great outlet for me, because for a while I felt like I was locked into doing just YouTube or just Warframe content, or else my subs would go down, or I would stop growing as a channel, and it's a terrifying feeling.
It is quite scary. How do you cope with having fun while playing games? Because I very quickly discovered that the idea of oh my god, I get to play games all day and just stream, it's oh, it's gonna be so much fun. It's not quite literally that. And I even know from Markiplier and Jacksepticeye, these guys, they rarely play games for fun anymore. It's they just play games. It's enjoying it on cam, but it's not really the enjoyment you had back in the day. How was that for you?
It's different. It is 100% different. So when I moved down here to Texas, I was borrowing my significant other's PC, basically. We had separate stream times so that when she was streaming, I would be doing something else, so that when she was doing something else, I was streaming. We were switching off and alternating. And I found that when she was streaming, Spider-Man PS4 just came out not too long ago, and it's a wonderful game. I love that game. But I found that after playing it for 2 or 3 hours, without streaming, it felt weird. I got bored almost because there wasn't a chat to interact with or something. I almost can't play video games just recreationally anymore without feeling the need to talk to a community or talk to somebody or have that interaction. It is the strangest feeling. But yeah, I almost can't do it anymore, just for fun. And that's where like burnout comes in. You have to be careful that like you're not having fun on stream, but you have to like it's a fine line. It's a balancing act.
It's so weird. Like I kind of relate with that. Like whenever I go on Warframe off stream, I've tried it a couple times. And it's like sometimes I just like touch up like a build or something because you're like, I don't want to do that on stream. But it's so weird because like it's like you feel like the stream is missing out on what you do. It's like it's the craziest feeling ever. Never thought I'd.
Yeah. You think about it and you're like, well, I could just be playing this on stream. Like that's like the mentality with almost every game, and that's why for me I started doing YouTube content because, you know, for instance, on YouTube we just started playing Assassin's Creed Origins as a Let's Play, and I know that if I stream that game, not many people are going to be super into watching me play that game. It's a year old. It's not the new cool thing. It's also, you know, it's not a lot of people's cup of tea. And my community specifically was built on like Warframe. So it's kind of a departure from Warframe. So for me to like have fun was also like, I booted up Assassin's Creed and I was like, let's just record this and let's just like talk and poke fun at the game and like, you know, sort of like think out loud while we play it, and let's just put it on YouTube. That way I can still play games, but I still feel like I'm making content, so I don't feel like I'm lazy or something like that. And that actually has been really, really fun for me to just experience games without being scared of like my quote unquote stream numbers and things like that. Has been liberating and really fun. So that's kind of what I've been doing to like kind of get around it. But yeah, it is like I can't play Warframe if I'm not streaming. I just don't like. It feels like I am robbing myself of stuff to do on stream, and it's a strange feeling because you're like, well, because once you've like done so much in the game, you're like, okay, what do I have to do? Kuba missions. Or I could roll ribbons, or I could grind out endo, or, you know, like there are so few things to do that it's like, well, I might as well just do anything I can do on stream because I don't want to, you know, use all of that now.
Better not touch those sorties. Because
right,
if you do,
exactly. Like
they're
I'm
gone.
just not gonna run it. And that's the good thing about playing. For me, like I play Warframe on all platforms, including the Switch when it comes out, and that's actually been nice to have to replay content on other platforms.
What are your masteries on other platforms? Like,
no, they're terrible.
No, well, let me know. I'm interested. I might also play on all platforms.
So for me, on PC, I'm MR 18, and that's primarily because after 18,
it doesn't matter.
There's no reason for me to do it. Yeah, so I'm just kind of like floating through. I think on PS4 I am MR, I want to say close to 10 or 12, somewhere in there. You know, I'm far enough in the game that I've done the Umbra quests and stuff, but like I haven't grind out some of the dual stat mods or some of the corrupted mods from the Derelict or things like that. So there's still some good grinding to do in there. And then on Xbox is literally this little baby account, hasn't finished the star chart. I think it's MR like 3 or 4. So there's still a lot of work to do. And then when Switch comes out, you know, I'm starting a brand new profile there. So
you're starting brand new on there?
Mm-hmm, wow. Yeah, I want my hope is that, you know, Warframe on Switch will bring in a bunch of new players and I can like run missions with them and we can help each other and I can teach them without like, because it's different when you teach people how to play the game once you already have everything. You know, it's nice to teach people together, like while playing with them and be like, oh, we need to do this and this is why. So I want to have that experience with hopefully a bunch of new players.
That is amazing. By the way, guys, for the Switch, which is coming up in November, I don't have a Switch, but for those of you who have a Switch and you're planning to switch over, DE has said on TennoCon that they're allowing a certain time window for you to copy over your PC account. I don't know whether consoles is confirmed or not. I know PC is, to your Switch account. That doesn't mean that you're moving it. It's just like they just copy paste, and there'll be 2 different accounts from then on. So.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think you might be able to do your console versions over, but that's up to Xbox and you know, Sony and Microsoft. So I wouldn't hold your breath on it because I don't think that they would love to endorse the idea that you can just move your stuff off of their platforms, but who knows. Also, I saw in chat a good friend of mine, Llama Tipper, who's been around forever. Congrats on getting married, man. I can't believe that's already coming up. I'm really, really proud of you.
I saw that. I was just gonna shout it out. Wow, amazing, dude.
Yeah, I know he's been working towards that. God, when I first met him, he was like, "Oh yeah, we're getting here," and I was like, "Oh, crazy!" And then he's been working so hard at it. We haven't seen him in a while, and then here he is.
Wow,
it came up quick.
Nice, nice, dude. Getting married this weekend. That's insane. Beautiful weekend. Beautiful, beautiful October. I really hope you have like a nice sunny day. Like sometimes you can have such nice like summery days in October.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yeah, the days that are like 65 degrees but really sunny. Mm-hmm. Those are perfect. I mean 65 Fahrenheit, of course, for any of you out of towners.
Yeah, let's put that Fahrenheit in there because you're on the Celsius side here. But I get it. Once it's like a number that I would be boiling, it's probably not Celsius.
Exactly. It's the best part. Yeah, but that goes back to how much our Twitch interactions is you can meet people and then 7 months later see these big life changes, and it's like their family, and it's like they're you see them grow up and develop. It's like, Twitch is wonderful, but really Mixer or Twitch, it's not Twitch specifically. But any streaming, any live, it's nice. It's really nice.
I agree. Tiny safe, definitely 65 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, no worries, man. Let me boil my tea.
Oh my god. Llama Tipper just said a 50-50 chance of snow. Ooh. You're in the snowy regions? Well, like a beautiful, nice pack of snow?
He lives very, very north. So, yeah.
We never get snow here, so I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah, after my move, I don't think I will be getting any snow, because I now live in Texas, which is rarely gets snow. It's been a few, where we live, there's a chance for it, but it's pretty rare.
It's rather warm, hot.
Yep.
I mean, I think Travel can relate with that. He's in Florida, which is like, he still needs the AC on, and I'm like, we don't even have ACs here in this country, so.
I know, God, it's so weird when people are like, "What's an AC?" I've never had one of.
Dude, like seriously, we only have like an AC in the car, and that like makes sense to me. So like when people say there's like an AC in the house, I'm like, wow, you're rich or something?
I love that. You're rich.
Like we sometimes get really hot days, and when I was young, I was like, why don't we just like drive the car inside the house and just open the doors and turn on the AC?
Exactly, duh. That's what all the rich people do.
Yeah.
They just drive their nice cars into the house.
But that's such a blessing. Every time I go to TennoCon, it's like, oh, it's such a blessing that there's an AC there.
Yeah, oh my god, I know. Jeez. But especially, I didn't realize how hot Canada got either.
Oh, it gets so hot, especially in summer. It's insane. It's supposed to be this cold country, this cold-ass country, but it's so warm in summer. Were you in TennoCon for the Wednesday first day, or did you rep Friday?
I was not. Yeah, I was there Friday, and
you missed the humidity.
Yeah.
Oh, you missed the humidity.
Thank God.
Thank God. Sherpa and I came in on Wednesday. It was like insane. It was like we came in and like you just walked into like a wall of like water. It was like soup. The air was soup. And then the next day it rained really freaking hard. Which is really fun because like Evelyn sent me like a message like, yo dude, what's the weather like? So I just like took like the Snapchat outside, just walked outside in the rain for like 30 seconds. I was completely soaked. Probably not a good idea.
What's the weather like? Terrible. Absolutely terrible.
But the humidity was gone after that. I was like, oh,
that's
so
true.
Nice.
Once it rains it out, yep, it's so good.
Mm-hmm. Tiny Save also says it gets so hot in here. This summer it's got to like 45 degrees Celsius with the humidity. Oh my god, that is.
I believe, yeah, she also lives in Canada, so yeah, their summers seem to be crazier than I ever imagined.
I was in Alberta like 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago. A lot of my family lived there, and it's like it is just like bright blue skies and like sun out every single day, and it's like you don't even believe it. So
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I always imagine like, and it's because the U.S. they are terrible about teaching.
Oh, we extracting? Are we going? What are we doing?
I want to extract. I want to get a different frame because Mag is dope, but not against the infested. I got the strength buff from her, but it's starting to get hard to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the U.S. is bad at teaching about things, so I always thought Canada was just this snowy wonderland like all year round. Like no, it's actually super hot most of the time.
So
Llama's actually hoping for the snow. Awesome.
Speaking of, well, now that I know that you didn't know a lot about Canada, let's name some European countries.
Oh
Just
God, yeah. I can just start throwing some around.
Don't worry about it. It's like you can come at me and say name all the 50 states, and I'll just be like,
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean that's fair. I can name some of them.
Anyway, let's move it back to actually we were talking about YouTube. You were recording Let's Plays. What is your future with YouTube and Patreon, and what's going on with that? What are your future plans with that? You just recorded Assassin's Creed. Are going to be all Let's Plays? Are we bringing PewDiePie is bringing back the Let's Plays? So I guess now it's the time to jump in. I mean,
yeah, Patreon was something we were using for a while to podcast because we have a mental health podcast where we bring on content creators and have them talk about mental health and content creation. So the idea was to talk about it. The podcast was originally for people who wanted to get into content creation but were like struggling with feeling like they weren't good enough or comparing themselves to others, getting depressed, like doing stuff that everybody does when it comes to content creation. But we found that people just really enjoyed the podcast because it had just really solid advice in it. So we've had like iFlynn, we've had Shull on the podcast, and so I was like, how do we change Patreon? Because Patreon is a steady paycheck. At the end of the day, like Twitch fluctuates really based on bits, based on gifted subs. It's very stressful. Patreon would be a really consistent paycheck and a way for me to know like, oh, I can pay my rent with Patreon every month, and deliver unique rewards to people. So on Patreon, like we have our $1 tier where you can go in and all of our YouTube videos, all of our podcasts, you can get them early, a whole week early before they go live on YouTube for everybody, which I thought was a pretty good tier. The $5 tier we changed to be like a nice community building exercise where basically I have a PO box and people write like really encouraging anonymous letters, not to me, but to like members of the community. So they all send them to me and then I redistribute the mail to other random members of the community. So, they'll, for me, for instance, I would take part and write down like really kind words of encouragement, like, hey, you know what, you may be having a rough day, but you're strong, you can do it, you can make it through. Just remember you're not alone, stuff like that. People would send a bunch of those to me and I would redistribute those to patrons of the like $5 tier. So it's like a community mail bag where you get something in the mail and it's, a nice piece of art or nice encouraging words. And it encourages like the community presence. And then aside from that, we have tiers where you can be in YouTube videos with me. You can be in the podcast, like with, if we interview Shull again, or, you can be in there in voice chat talking to Shull with us, some of your favorite broadcasters out there and things like that. So the idea was to make Patreon like be able to give unique rewards while also like helping me to have a consistent paycheck and to be able to support myself a little better, upgrade stream, get a new graphics card or whatever, and be able to not live so paycheck to paycheck. But also Patreon gave me a reason to do YouTube content. Like I said earlier, like I really love YouTube. And it's kind of been nice to be able to just sit down and play Assassin's Creed, or like we'll be playing Dragon Quest 11 soon, and to sit down and play whatever game I want to play and then throw it on YouTube. On top of that, I play a lot of Dead by Daylight and Warframe, so there'll be Warframe lore videos. The Chimera prologue will be talking about that, or stuff like
Ooh.
that. So, you know, YouTube gives me a way to not just sit here and stream the same games, but to enjoy other stuff without feeling like I'm not actually making content. So that's been really, really great for me, and it has been like probably, you know, I wanted to play other games, which led to me doing YouTube, which led to me wanting to revamp Patreon. So it sort of like trickled down a little bit, but it has been, I feel really motivated to do it, and I feel motivated to, like, you know, bring the community together and do more stuff like that. So it's honestly been like the best, and I feel really great about being able to put it together. So I'm loving it. I'm loving every second of it right now. Anyway,
That's so cool. It's you don't see a lot of creators anymore use Patreon. Like, it differs. Like, I remember like 2 years ago, everyone had a Patreon. But like as you said, it's like Twitch like fluctuates so much, and like I'm really up to see you make YouTube content. I really encourage people to like go onto platforms, more than one, because you don't know when one will fuck up, and when they do,
yeah,
like, you're not gonna have an insurance.
Yep. That's the thing, is like, you know, when YouTube started going like downhill, and people were like, oh god, like, you know, we're getting demonetized, like we're not making any money. Patreons and stuff like that were like the fallback for a lot of people, or Twitch. And I never want to put all my eggs in one basket. I always want to create content on multiple platforms, and my stream time is weird. I stream late at night for a lot of people. People in the UK are like sleeping when I go live, so
Yeah.
people don't have the chance to come hang out. So having like YouTube content where they can still like enjoy me or like whatever I'm doing and my personality or whatever on YouTube, I think that's a great way to provide for them as well, or try to at least.
All right. Well, let's take a look. We're closing into. Oh, we just crossed the hour mark, which is kind of what we're shooting the stream at. But I think it's time for one of the most important questions. At least one of the questions that I've had like ever since I saw your very first stream.
Okay. Is it about my hair?
How'd you know?
Because I get it a lot. I get asked a lot.
I want to know the story behind I think it's really amazing, because like it's like it's so iconic, and like you have your glyph in your profile picture. It's like you see you know it's you. I really like that. Where did it come from? Like, how do you grow it out? Because it looks like a lot to maintain as well.
It's it was weird. I really don't know kind of where it came from. You know, when I was working at Best Buy, doing like the YouTube channel and stuff like that, I wanted to change my hair color, but Best Buy's policy was you can only have natural hair colors like black, brown, maybe like auburn or red. So I was like, you know, I don't know, like, you know, so I dyed it purple, and they were like, no, you have to change it back. And I was like, shit. So I was like, well, okay, you know, I will change it. So I always just kind of wanted to change my hair color. You know, I looking at myself now, I have a lot of tattoos. I have like my ears are like, you know, gauged up, and I think that's because I feel like so unique on the inside that I wanted my outer appearance to sort of like be as striking as you know, I think I am on the inside. So after I quit my job and I moved, the new job I was getting was like, oh yeah, we don't care like what color your hair is, it doesn't matter, whatever. So I was like, okay, cool. So I dyed it. I originally dyed it blue, where it was blue on the top and then it faded to like pink sort of tips, if you will. And I was like, that's crazy, why not? And once I did that, I realized I didn't like blue so much. Blue made me look paler than I am. Like, I'm already very fair skinned, very light skinned. And having blue made me look even more like iridescent and bad. So I was like, okay, well, the pink was kind of cool. So I just went like with the pink, and I just dyed over the blue with the pink like a few months later, and people just sort of started enjoying it, and I suddenly became the pink-haired guy. If you see me, you know, at TwitchCon, if you see, pink is not a really prevalent color, especially on men. So you just don't see it, especially with the way like my hair is shaved down on the sides and stuff. So yeah, originally my hair was really short on top, but I still had the sides shaved, and it's just been growing and growing and growing for a few years. You know, you get it trimmed every now and then, but dye it every other month or so, and it became my branding. I enjoy it. enjoy getting weird looks from people, but I also enjoy like how people are like, oh wait, you have pink hair? Oh, you're that guy. Like I that's kind of what I was going for, you know, when I to be as striking on the outside as I am on the inside, sort of thing. So, and it's good branding overall, you know. Like it sounds kind of terrible, but I'm not going to TwitchCon with business cards, mostly because money, but also because like my design was going to take way longer to print than I thought. So, you know, I'm counting on my hair as
Additional life support has
for like other streamers that I see and stuff like that, you know, for them to be like, oh wait, who is that? And then follow me on Twitter and be like, oh, it's the pink hair guy. Cool, awesome, I remember him. So, you know, I'm in a way using that as like as an interesting sort of marketing tool as well.
Ooh, we're getting Stoker here?
I don't know. That's actually
so
sort of confused by that.
It sounds like a Stoker. It just doesn't
Yeah, I know.
like it.
It's just not like showing up.
I feel we talked a lot about the creator stuff, so but still, because you brought up business cards, let me just quickly say this, okay? It's like business cards are fine, but they're not your get out of jail ticket for avoiding social interaction, which I feel a lot of people kind of do. It's like I could spend hours talking to you and getting to know you, but here I'll give you a piece of paper, and that will substitute for that. It's like,
yeah.
doesn't
I
really
saw it a
work
lot
out.
at TwitchCon last year. People would just walk up and give card, not say anything, and I'm like, that's not how this works.
That's
Like,
not how it works, no.
yeah, the idea is that like a business card reinforces in case somebody like, oh, like where can I find that person again? How do I spell their name again? Like that's kind of what it's for. But like if you spend 10 minutes with me, really a good 10 minutes talking to me, I'm gonna remember you. I'm gonna find you. If you're lucky, I'll look you up right then and there and follow you on Twitter, so I have that. You know, like that's kind of what it's about. You know, business cards are reminders. They're not your like ticket to like, you know, get a follow or something like that. It's just not how that works. So I absolutely agree.
I have like a special stack of them, like ones that like people made that they put real attention to, like Tiger Stripes card, Hydroxate's card. They're like, I like them, but there's also a bunch of them which is just like you just kind of use that as like a, you didn't want to interact with me, so you just gave me a card and you hope I'll follow you. Sorry, dude, ain't gonna happen.
It's always the worst thing about like conventions when you go home and you stack of business cards and you look back through them and you're like, I don't remember some of these people at all. Like, you know, you're in terms of like networking, you're your own best friend in terms of that. Like you should be able to talk about yourself and you should leave an impression that I remember, you know. Yes, like you do meet a lot of people, but if you truly left an impression, like I will certainly remember you. So that's the thing for me. That's kind of the ticket. But yeah, because the thing for me is like I don't like business cards that are like rectangular, and it's the weirdest thing. If you give me a rectangular business card that I can put in a stack of other business cards, I'll probably just forget about it. So I'm particular. If you have a die cut business card, or if yours is like square or something like that, to me, like oof, that is the way to set yourself apart, and I love those the most.
Have you? Okay, I actually have right here the best business card I've ever gotten. That was this year TennoCon, okay? Let's hope I don't die.
Same.
This right here, shit, you can't see it, but maybe chat will be able to see it. This is you're gonna have to watch the VOD. This is a 3D printed model of Hydroxate.
Oof, that sounds awesome.
So freaking cool.
I mean, Hydroxate is somebody to keep your eyes on. I adore him.
Dude, he is fantastic. He lives very close by, so we sometimes just like pop over.
Oh, that's awesome.
We did some streams together, stuff like that. It's really cool. Limbo Bimbo.
I'm gonna take the Tigris piece. Oh wait, hold on. How did I not?
You don't have one.
Reactant. How did I? Wait. Oh, it never gave me the. It never let me select a relic. It just took me right to the mission.
All right, let me see if I can take a radiant for you now.
Oh, that's fine.
I'll take a radiant.
I'll radiant this Grand Prime handle. We'll take that. We'll see what happens. I already have a Grand, but I want the Rubico Prime.
Oh,
yeah,
I just got a Rubico.
Didn't give me the chance to pick a relic.
We were mean. We were mean.
That was funny. Yeah.
All right. Well, With that being said, actually, let's look towards like wrapping it up.
Yeah.
Is there any like take the floor? If there's any way that you wanna, anything that you wanna share, anything that you wanna promote, anything that you got coming up. I mean, we all know Fortuna's coming out next week. We don't know when Fortuna's coming out,
You're
but
like, shit, I didn't say that. Yeah, we don't know when Fortuna's coming out, but I think it'll be 2 or 3 weeks. I think because I think we're still waiting on Tenogen before Fortuna, right?
I was like, it's gonna be either 2 to 4 weeks after the main line.
Yeah,
They
because
probably
the main line needs patching and updates. And...
Yeah, and they probably put a dev stream in between there, which puts it right at TennoCon, TwitchCon, and I was like, is DE gonna do it or not? And DE, like, you may think like DE is like, nah, we won't do it because we got most of our partner community in here, and well, if we release Fortuna right when they're all away from home, it's gonna suck real bad.
That'd be so dumb.
But
they might do it.
They've done it before. One day before the very first TennoCon, they released like Specs of the Rail.
Oh god.
And everyone was at TennoCon. It was people
Like,
that
who do you want to promote your content right now?
the people that stayed at home were like laughing so hard.
Yeah. I will say they don't have a booth at TwitchCon this year, so they might not actually be afterwards. Because I remember they had the Plains booth last year, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. So.
If they don't have one, I'm gonna guess they will not release it. But if they were planning to, like, again, for them it would be like, oh my god, if we have a new update, everyone's gonna play that on TwitchCon.
Oh god, it's so bad. It'd be so bad. It'd basically just be Shoal in the directory. Like you Shoal, like there'd be like 4 partners.
Yep. Oh my god. You know what? No, I think Gridark is gonna be there as well. So like, what we do is I just hit up Show and Gridark, be like, yo guys, let's look at this logically. We need some sleep, so I'm gonna stream for a third of the day. You're gonna stream for another third, and you're gonna stream for another third, and we'll just take over, so we don't all have to do 24-hour streams and just die at like the end of the week.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because yeah, Fortuna when it comes out, I was watching people. I wasn't when Plains initially came out. I was partnered like about a month after. So, you know, I remember watching Daniel like doing 12, 13-hour streams. I remember watching Show, like it was, I'm fully prepped to basically like live in a world where I take a 30-minute break from streaming. Like I leave the stream open and then go shower and then come back and stream more, like, and just eat food out of cans for hours. So I'm prepped for Fortuna craziness.
Oh my. It was, Plains of Island was insane. Like, I remember we were just done with like the 100 hours, and like we were speculating with Rio and Rob and Mo and Defton. We were sitting there like, okay, well, this is coming up, and I was like, well, maybe we should look into like hosting strategies, stuff like that, because this is probably going to be a little bit bigger than normal. And then, like, literally, we went from, like, 1,500 total directory viewers to, like, a consistent 15,000 in one stream alone.
Yeah,
and it was
ridiculous.
And you literally saw, like, no one had any fucking clue what they were doing. They're just like, I don't know what's happening. I'm just going to stream.
Yep, I'm hitting go live. I mean, there were people that literally got, like, then Twitch part based on, like, you know, based on playing Plains of Eidolon content. So it's insane.
I think because we had such an inflation, Twitch was actually not partnering people.
Well, not at the time, but no. like you know, if you were streaming Plains of Eidolon,
yeah,
then for like a month after, you were still like riding that wave, and that's how people discovered you. Like that's kind of, yeah. At the time, I'm sure there were a lot of people getting declined, but you know, if you got popular during Plains of Eidolon and then people kept viewing you, that was your ticket.
Anyway, it's not about Plains of Eidolon. Let's talk about you, which we have done. But right now, let's throw that plug in. Let's go on.
You guys can find me at Gooperatives pretty much anywhere. Ooh, I need the Nami Skyline Prime. So you can find me on Patreon, YouTube, Twitter, and in Warframe at Gooperatives. I play both PlayStation and Xbox as well, and you can hop to my streams to find my gamer tag or to find a little bit more. Patreon.com is the new thing we're pushing. Go check that out if you guys want to see the new rewards, the new tiers. Even if you could just give $1 a month, it really it does help quite a bit. Pay some bills, and then of course our YouTube content, if you are on Patreon, is rolling out. We have episode 2 of Assassin's Creed is going up today, episode 3 tomorrow. We're doing an upload a day on YouTube, so Patreon, you're getting a lot of content. At that point, those videos for Assassin's Creed will start going up live the weekend of TwitchCon, so you guys have some content to watch if you cannot afford Patreon. So yeah, otherwise, like I said, I stream 5 days a week on Twitch. It's either Warframe or Dead by Daylight. There's really not much guesswork there. So, and our Discord, you can always hang out in there if you guys want to check out what we're about, the mental health vibes, etc. So
Another life support capsule is now
that is
available.
all.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, and I just want to say we did it. It's worked. It's worked all the way through.
We got it to work. Yeah, it went all the way through. Yeah, I appreciate you having me. I'm glad we got it to work. I'm glad I got to come out here and gave me a place to kind of talk about what we're doing, and I am very grateful and appreciative. It's been a lot of fun. So
It's been amazing to have you on. By the way, when did you upload the very first episode of your Let's Play of Assassin's Creed?
I uploaded it 2 days ago, and it went live on. So it is pretty new.
It went live yesterday, for everyone?
It went live yesterday for everyone on Patreon at the $1 tier. It'll go fully, it'll go live to everybody at Friday next week.
I was just if you uploaded it yesterday, could it have been that it was so good that it took down YouTube for over 30 minutes?
That's the hope, is so many people flooded Patreon. No,
Because YouTube just went down. Oh,
yeah,
that was
it was
painful.
around the same time. It was so good, man.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching and for joining us in on the Warframe Fangirl Spotlight. This week, we're spotlighting Goop, and as you can see in chat, thanks to Stuff on Tribal, dude, we have the Twitch links, the YouTube links, and the Patreon links. Make sure you check them out. Go over to Twitch and hit that follow button and check him out, or check him out and hit that follow button, or hit that follow button, check him out, hit that subscribe button, and then go to Patreon, YouTube, do the same. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Warframe Fangirl Spotlight, and I will see you all next time. Bye.